Good morning, College Football Nation, voice of College Football Nation, to be more specific. And you, yes, you, joining us for a first time or just casually dropping by once in a while, whether that be to this show or to some of the other shows here at the Voice of College Football. Yes, you, believe it or not, yes, you can become one of the select but growing few of the Voice of College Football community, our nation. So there's College Football Nation, but then there is the Voice of College Football Nation. Thanks for being here. Thanks for stopping by. Hopefully you can make it for the entirety, including breakfast. And yes, we've made it a conversation a few times about setting alarms, responding to alarms, responding to wake-up calls, like physical, verbal wake-up calls, and those kind, gentle ones, and then the people, usually guys, I think, that don't care, and they just kick you in the side and tell you to get up because they don't want to have to tell you again. But that could have been your mom. I don't know. Your wife. So welcome. Wake up, College Football. Appreciate you being here. This would be the Storm edition. Tornado almost came out of my mouth, but that would not be accurate, and we don't want it to be accurate. The Tornado edition of the Voice of the everything starts with Voice of College Football here on the network. So bear with me. Wake up, College Football. Doesn't always come out of my mouth, even though it's right on the screen right in front of me. Yes, so we've all been awakened to, or if we've not been awakened to, which I was at 5 a.m., alerted to, stunned, surprised, jolted by the just jarring, annoying. Somebody did their job when they selected this noise to alert you of severe weather or some type of emergency. They I could even hear them through the walls. I have not heard either one of my neighbors since I've been here for a little over 2 months. I've not heard my neighbors at all, save one night at about 3 a.m. And fortunately, it's not what you think it was. I just heard a really loud movie, I guess. It wasn't like they were playing music. It was just a loud movie. So that was fine. Not a big deal. But yes, that blood-curdling You know, when comedians tell jokes, one of what I find typically annoying standard comedic approach technique that they use, like if I was a stand-up comedian and I was just telling that little bit story right there, I wouldn't call it a joke. It's not a joke. I was just telling a little anecdote there about that emergency alert. They taught comedians at some point to just belabor it. I would have still been doing that. They have to do it like 10 times, 12 times, 15 times. I did it twice. The vocal cords said enough, and my annoyance level said enough, and yours probably did as well. So I will never make it as a stand-up comedian for a number of reasons. But we are awake and alive and well. Hope you are as well where you are located. So appreciate you being here. Yes, I woke up to that noise, checked the phone, and then I thought, okay, do I go to a safe location? Because it was the tornado warning. There's the watch, tornado conditions with the watch. Then there's the warning, take cover. There's been tornado activity spotted in your area, or that is generally my take on that. That's what I've read in the past, that means that there has been a tornado, but I don't know that that's necessarily true. definitely there's going to be a warning if there's been a tornado spotted within 30 miles or in your path of the storm, something like that. But I think it's also if there are severe conditions that make it likely. So I'm still waiting for my couch. I've got some other furniture on its way. I'm going to be assembling furniture here very soon. I actually have a few things for the set upstairs, and I also have some things down here already that have been delivered that I need to get working on. But man, I came down to the kitchen. I'm like, really? So it was not 5 a.m. The tornado warning was lasting until 5 a.m. It was 3:45, something like that. And I thought, am I going to stand down here until 5 a.m.? And then I started to weigh the likelihood or the minuscule, tiny, tiny possibility that a tornado is going to strike. And I know there have been all sorts of people that took the right precautions. I certainly have many times had my significant other, wife, children, whomever else, take the necessary precautions. I came down, I looked at my phone for a while, scanned a number of things, stood down here in the dark, thought, okay, where's the safest place in the house if I want? I'm not going there right now, but okay, that closet, okay, if you don't have a basement, all of that. Then it was about 5 a.m. and they had not lifted the tornado warning, but I had already determined earlier that I was going to go to bed. Then I got hung up watching, flipping through stuff on my phone, but I went to bed. And so all is good. Appreciate you all being here. And I know that a lot of people across the nation, I know that there was just horrible tornado devastation in the Nebraska, Iowa, Kansas area a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago. And then here just about a week ago, there was a lot of activity in the Oklahoma, northern Texas, Kansas region, Arkansas. So we hope everything is fine where you are concerned, your belongings, your home, and most of all, your family, your friends, you. All right, let's get to the chat. Franklin Fanatic is first. For Jackson not to be first is an upset. And then for Franklin Fanatic now, if somebody wants to keep some kind of unofficial poll, maybe you could go back and watch the other 18 shows. I believe this is number 19, show number 19, to see who's in the chat first. Bright and early at 7:52 a.m. Mushu, Jared, Mike, good to see you. Good to see all of you, of course. Always believe in Alabama. Good morning, Mark. Appreciate all that you do. Well, thank you so much for that. That's nice to hear first thing in the morning. I know that there are videos out there that I've responded to, not in the football or sports realm, maybe never. I don't know of any sports or college football videos that I've ever responded to that I've been critical. There have many been that I've been critical of that I thought were complete garbage, that were just either poorly stated or untrue or boring or obvious or whatever. But I cannot ever remember responding negatively. However, I have responded negatively a number of times to some other issues or some other topics that hit close to home in regards to my values, my beliefs, or my preferences, my favorites in life. I have done that. And then so I've made the mistake of commenting before I've watched the entire video. So I've done that. Somebody said something pushed a button 30 seconds in, boom, I made a comment. I ended up watching the rest of the video. Okay, they explained a little bit further. Okay, take the comment down, Mark, edit the comment, something. So I've done it myself. But that comment there by Always Believe in Alabama just reminds me that just some people's comments to the channel, and I am not unique in this way. This is every YouTube channel out there. I understand some of it. Some of the criticism I understand, and that's all well and good. That's fine. I am an open target here. Some of it, though, when people don't listen or what they're spewing back at you are complete lies. When I say lies, they may be intentional, they may be unintentional. I'm talking about supposed facts that aren't facts. So I don't necessarily put that under the lying category, although it is telling a lie if you know you're spewing facts that are not true. So it's just strange to me. All right, Mike's here saying, Mark, growing up, my alarm clock was set to radio, and invariably I'd be waking up to Steely Dan. Anyone else? Well, to the radio, I guess I've done that a few times in life. When I was in my teens, I went with the radio here and there, but I generally have stayed away from the radio as an alarm. Of course, people can set it to whatever favorite songs they have or whatever, but I don't even know if I want to hear my favorite songs first thing in the morning to wake up to over and over and over and over. They would quickly become not my favorite songs. And ever since I started listening to music, I am a tough critic. I believe I inherited this from my mom. My mom is what you would call, God rest her soul, a music snob. She is, I speak about her in the present tense. I tend to do that with a lot of people, a few people that are near and dear to me, but it just comes out in the present tense still, that my mom is a music snob in that, first of all, she studied music in college, and she was a pianist. She studied it. She practiced it her whole life. She played piano at a very high level, both in terms of just people giving her accolades, but actually receiving some notable assignments and jobs as a pianist. And she grew up in an era before rock. She was probably 25, 26 when rock music hit. So she was already had her influences of music. So she considered all of that garbage. And we could roll out all sorts of musicians and music that we would find to be exceptional. And she would just be like, are you serious? That's garbage. Those people can't sing. She could find very few people that she thought could sing. So I only say that to say that for me, listening to the radio was always a bit of an annoyance back before we had our selection of what we could listen to, before the cassette. Although I had all that stuff, at least in my dad's car from a very early age, 8, 9 years old. We had an 8-track player, then a cassette player, then a da-da-da-da, and then CDs in cars. So I pretty much grew up in an era where you could select your music for the most part, but it was mostly, okay, I'm riding with people in my family that don't have that, just have the radio, or I just had a radio for a long time. Point being, most of the music, even if it was on, I'm 20 years old and I listen to top 40. If I'm listening to a top 40 station, 90% of the songs, no thank you, no thank you, click. I'm constantly, people would tell me from time to time that they didn't like me constantly changing the radio station. Sunny. Good morning, all. Fun show tonight. Who had the better 2024 NFL draft? Michigan, Texas. Thank you so much for that, Sunny. Sunny, thank you. Good promo out of Sunny on this one. Texas, Michigan. Your first response might be, well, obviously, Michigan had the better draft. 13 is better than 11. You know us here at the Voice of College Football. We're smarter than that. You're smarter than that. Let's delve deeper. And not just, okay, let's look at the 2024 NFL draft and who had a better draft. Granted, it's a little bit dated in our day and time. The NFL draft was 2 weeks ago and a couple days. But it's more about, look at these two programs. You've got a defending national championship team. You've got a school program team that's on the rise that came within one play of playing that other team, Michigan, in the national championship game. So these two almost played. They're playing this fall. And this may be something to watch down the road as the SEC stands with its elites and the Big Ten with its elites. I think this is going to turn into more than just, okay, we're going to analyze the 2024 NFL draft. So think big picture here with talent acquisition, player development, Michigan, Texas, doing it a little bit differently. And so the debate will go on tonight on the Texas channel, on the Michigan channel. Please check out the Texas channel. In particular, check out all of our channels, or whichever ones interest you. And I'm probably preaching to the choir right now, so I'm not going to run down all of our channels because you're all pretty much aware. But the focus tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern time, 7 Central, Michigan, Texas. We're simulcasting on those two channels. Make your selection. We are promoting the Texas channel. We've got a show on Mondays with Matthew Miller at 7 Eastern, 6 Central. Would love to see you there. But again, 8 o'clock tonight, Eastern. Keith, that's a show for Keith. Michigan, Texas tonight at 8 Eastern. Good morning, all. Michigan has been ranked last in returning production. That's a pretty valid metric. So it's one thing to have a valid metric. It's another to have a effective or impactful metric, meaning the metric could be valid. There could be a metric that could tell me how many blades of grass are outside in the backyard here. What does that mean? Does it mean anything? No, it doesn't mean much. Okay. Could be accurate, could be valid, but does it mean anything? Returning production. I know Virginia Tech is sitting in a good place in terms of returning production. It doesn't surprise me that Michigan is last, meaning last in all of college football. Tim's here. D-Rock Irish. Ralph. That is a really marginal but still listenable song for me from the movie Clam Bake. There we go. Hey, hey, hey. JR. Good to see you. Jim's here. Ricky, don't you lose that number? Why is that coming up? Was that your theme song, your wake up song back in the day? Fanatic. His parents' alarm was set to the radio. Exact time every day I'd wake up to Power of Love by Huey Lewis in the news. Wait a minute. Your parents listened to a radio station that played the same song at the same time every day? Could be, maybe. Maybe it was the theme song to some kind of segment, The Morning Crew. Probably most of you had a favorite morning crew, a morning crew that you would wake up to. There were a few in Cleveland and Akron radio when I was growing up. I didn't have any particular affection or attachment to any of them, but a few come to mind a long, long time ago. Tip to be square. Yes, our buddy Huey Lewis, I know that he's had some rough physical issues here in recent years. He had a hearing issue at one point, and then it was compounded. Jim says, my mom would sing Who Are You by The Who. Yeah, that. Asking the chat. Ralph, I'll leave that alone. I'm not in the chat. JR, Mark, when you were at ESPN, did you have a bunch of sources? It's funny to me how many people say they have them today. I find that amusing myself. So, with all that goes on in college football these days, with realignment, I've got a tag back here that's annoying. With all that's going on with realignment, supposed realignment, and then now all these court cases with Clemson, with Florida State, now with North Carolina, making their options and their desires known. The only thing that bothers me or I find not reputable out of some YouTube channels or websites would be the ones that go off on these crazy notions. It all depends on how the information or the entertainment or the attempted entertainment is presented. So there have been YouTube channels ever since all this realignment started with Oklahoma and Texas in the summer of 21. Yeah. It's all on how you present it. Because I've generally not taken advantage of all the realignment hype. I have not taken advantage of it. I generally only respond if something is newsworthy, if there is actual news. When the Pac-12 was collapsing, the Arizona chancellor would make a statement. I may produce a video, and I would always be upfront about either this is total speculation on my part, total speculation. I have no grounds, no sources, no nothing, no information. This is how it could happen. This is what this person or this university, this program could be thinking. This is reading between the lines. This is speculation. Or I state things to say, okay, let's add this up. This happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. Wow, this is likely to happen. I don't have any inside sources. I don't know, but this seems to be where this is headed. Or, of course, there are a number of things that I state as total fact or logic. And then there are things that I've put together and just clearly stated, hey, this is just fun. Let me throw this out there as an option of where this could go. I posted something with an expanded Big 12 I was taking off on the 80-team proposal, the Super League, wherever that came from. So we talked about where that originated and the likelihood that that would happen. And then I just threw together with maybe one or two exceptions, I thought it was an airtight 8 divisions with 10 teams in terms of keeping things geographically and in terms of rivalries and attachments. Boom, 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 in order. And people went crazy. This isn't going to happen. That's not going to happen. You're crazy. It's not going to. I didn't say that it was. I clearly stated at the top of the video, this is what's being talked about out there. So there's a certain validity to this. Not that it's going to happen, but if the Athletic is reporting it, there are powers that be within college football that are actually talking about maybe pursuing this. It's likely not going to happen. So I'm just taking off on it. This is the best direction to go in terms of setting up this Super League. Well, again, people don't listen and they hear this as a prediction. It's not a prediction. It's okay, if we're going to go the Super League route, this is how I'm going to line it up. It's not a prediction. So I think most of the criticism that I take is because people don't listen. Or they just get easily offended by the truth. But sources. Well, when I was at ESPN, I was not working as a reporter or a journalist, so I had some sources there, but I didn't consider them sources because I wasn't running around using their information. But you might be surprised that in some ways it brought me closer to sources. Of course, physically it did. Somebody could be across the room and they can't be a source maybe because you don't know them. Or they could be across the world, and if you've got a relationship with them, then they're a source. So I was close to sources, but at times I actually was close to sources. Most of the time, not. I just worked there. Didn't have any interest in being close to sources, so I didn't have any sources per se. But yeah, people love to say that they have sources. I actually, JR, don't hear it much because I don't listen to anybody. I just don't. D-Rock played the piano, played the trumpet. Better trumpet player. Got it. Jim, yes, the 8 tracks. They were awful, weren't they? Ralph grew up with the radio on. Key's first professional job out of college. My clock radio station played Christopher Cross, Ride Like the Wind. Again, that would be another tune I would not want to hear. I would be fine with not hearing that the rest of my life. Now, Keith, all well and good. If you like Christopher Cross, man, was he a flash in the pan. He was kind of here, was a big deal for 2 years. Then he kind of rode off to the wind. I don't know what happened to him. Ride Like the Wind to Be Free Again. Christopher Cross. I'm trying to think of his other songs. For a second, I got him confused slightly. Didn't truly get him confused, but he also reminded me, and I paired him together with Bruce Hornsby. He was another one who, bam, hit really hard, gained all sorts of acclaim for a couple songs, and then he was off. All right, Tim, Mark, did you see that College Game Day is going to Notre Dame, Texas A&M, and College Station? I did. It's funny that off the heels of our conversation prompted by what JR asked, if you've heard me speak on the College Game Day selections, you know that I think this is the most overrated topic in sports. I don't get it. I don't get it. And this has nothing to do with College Game Day. It's an exceptional show, or I should say, it's always been an exceptional show, has recently been an exceptional show. I've not truly watched a College Game Day in 20 some years. I have designated Saturday when I've got to lock in on college football for, okay, let's go have breakfast with a friend. Let's exercise. Let's run some errands. Let's do all those things, get some fresh air before college football starts. I don't need to have a show tell me 98% things that I already know or are going to be outdated and old in 3 hours. So I have not partaken of College Game Day. When I tell people it's an excellent show, I guess I'm saying that by faith. I'm saying that trusting that the powers that be and everybody involved makes it a great show because it always was a great show. A lot of people have said it's not the show that it used to be. That network should have never gotten rid of David Pollack. He's arguably the best talent they had there and the best college football mind and the most entertaining. But hey, they've made bad decisions in the past and will continue to do so. But yeah, the whole College Game Day, I just don't get it. Who cares? Like, I just don't understand that. So it's funny to me that people care where College Game Day shows up. I have never cared. Most of you know I'm an Ohio State fan. If I had to do this over, I would have never let that out. I don't know that I could have not let that out by now, but I think my channel ran better when people didn't know. I'm talking 5, 6, 7 years ago when people truly, nobody knew, and it was amusing to me. It was funny. It was a good test of human nature, and it could have been a sociology project of sorts, but it's out there. Ohio State fan. Okay, fine. I never cared. When did College Game Day? I think it started in the early 90s, and then I think they took to the road in 95 or 96. So I was in my late 20s. I never cared. Like if College Game Day had never stepped on the campus of Ohio State, now would I have thought that was strange, that was odd, that they never showed up? I could care less. I just don't understand the fascination. Who cares? Are you going? Like, that's typically my response to people when they make a case out of it. Are you going? Now, if you're going, okay, then I get it. If you are making plans to go, then I get it. And this is not a criticism. I just don't get it. So there's a difference between criticism like that's dumb, that's stupid, that's wrong. None of that. Just I don't understand. And I've never had anyone give me a real good explanation of why it matters. That is something that I should do a video on, though. That is one of the things I saw late last night during the tornado warning. Watch, warning. Yeah, it was a watch. It's still a watch. Warning. I saw that. Oh, College Game Day has made some, maybe all of its, well, not all of its. They make that selection. They make that selection the Monday, not of that week, but the week prior. So 12 days prior, they make that selection along with the selections of the games to fill out the schedule. Now, some of the big games are out there and are starting to be selected by networks, but the complete college football schedule for any particular Saturday or weekend is determined the Monday prior to the previous Saturday. Unless that's changed, that's what it always was. When I was at ESPN, as was mentioned by JR, I'd get a rundown of all the college football selections hours before everybody else out in the public, or probably minutes before, once the internet really started kicking in and social media. I probably had coworkers I didn't even know that were sending that out as soon as they could, just to be kind of in the know. So yes, I did come across that information, College Game Day. See, that would be a video that would be extremely easy to do and to me extremely pointless, but would probably get some decent traction, I guess, if I went through and predicted where College Game Day is going to go every week. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll do that today. Premier Youth Theater out of Orlando, of course. Good morning from O-Town. Like number 9, thank you so much for that. Letting everyone know. Mick Stevens, TCU fan. Appreciate you being here. Don't believe I've ever seen your name before. So a big welcome to the voice of college football, Nick. Appreciate you being here. Mick Stevens, TCU fan. Would love to know how long you've been watching the voice of college football. And Mick reminds me here that we do have a Big 12 channel. Please check it out. My issue with the 8-track player was that the first 8-track player we had was in my dad's car. He had somebody install an 8-track player, and you could hear a song that was like, however the 8-track worked, whatever song was opposite on the tape, you could hear it faintly in the background. It was so annoying, and it got worse and worse and worse and worse. Joey Foster has released his top 5 toughest Big 12 schedules. And because I'm a stickler for titles, not really titles, but titles play into grammar, it would be the 5 toughest Big 12 schedules, or the top 5 Big 12 schedules, or again, the 5 toughest Big 12 schedules, the top 5 toughest. But check that out. There you go. Check it out on the West Virginia channel. I don't know that I want to read this. Dominic, oh boy, made the biggest mistake of my life last night. I went out with a gun and was got by the Manasau City Police. Thankfully, nobody was hurt. I'm back home safe. Okay. Went out with a gun. Okay. I'm not going to pry after that, but you were the one that's serving up the situation there, Dominic. But there are a lot of questions to be answered there. Yakov, Mark, do you miss the Big 8? I loved watching Colorado, Nebraska, which that is one of the TV selections that was announced this week. Loved how fans threw oranges on the field after wrapping up the league. Yeah, I like the Big 8. This is a biased opinion because it's the formation of college football during my youth. So am I biased toward that? Of course I am. But at the same time, I also think it just flat out makes sense. And it would be somewhat balanced if you would send the Big 8 schools back to the Big 8. You would send the Southwest Conference schools back. The Pac 8, 10. Let's go 10. Because Arizona State have proven worthy of power conference status starting in 1978. So the Pac-10, not the Pac-12, Pac-10, Big 8, move those teams back down into the Southwest Conference. Arkansas, you're back in the Southwest Conference. The SEC, the Southeastern Conference, is truly the Southeastern Conference again. There's no Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, Texas A&M, Missouri. It's the Southeastern Conference with 10 teams. the Big Ten. And you know what? For as much as a lot of Penn State fans and Big Ten fans would not like this, Penn State out. The ACC shouldn't have a zillion teams, 17 teams. No. SMU is going to be in the Southwest Conference. Cal and Stanford, they're in the Pac-10. So that takes it down to 14. And then Pitt, Syracuse, Louisville. I've already done this. There are videos out there, folks. The Big East, there should be a Big East Conference. So maybe back way before a lot of you folks were around and were yet to be a gleam in your parents' eyes or could care less about college football at 3 years old. Yes, there were tons of independents, and most of them existed in the eastern portion of the country. We'd have a Big East Conference if I was running the show. West Virginia, Penn State, Boston College, Louisville, Syracuse, Pitt, Maryland. No, Maryland ACC, Anyway, there you go. It could be so logical, so connected to the fabric of college football. What all of this has done, it has ripped apart much of the fabric of college football. I'm not going to say all of it. We still have most of the great rivalries intact. It has ripped apart the fabric of college football because the contrasting styles of the leagues, both on the field in terms of the style of play, although in this day and age, the style of play is pretty much the style of play. I think college football has become more boring through the years, and probably the NFL, but I don't diagnose the NFL. I just watch it as more of a fan, just sit there and watch, and couldn't tell you much about the style of play except for that they've copied college football for the first time in history. Yeah, pretty much for the first time in history. I know some of you may come up with a few individual specific examples. College football has always copied the NFL. The NFL has had the brains, and college football copied the NFL over and over and over and over and over. Most of all, the proliferation of the passing game. But here in the last 10 or 15 years, we've seen college football influence the NFL, and the NFL has taken on the mobile quarterback and the read option and the RPO and all that. But man, if we could get back to geography meaning something, because it's not just about geography. It's about what the geography does. The geography puts teams together and players together that are familiar with each other, familiar with styles, familiar with food preferences, music preferences, values, way of life, all of that. Weather makes each conference unique, and they have a style, they have a flavor. The flavor, the culture within these leagues it's still there, but it's been dissipated severely. It's been watered down severely. The Southwest Conference had a style, a flavor all its own. The SEC, the Big Ten, the Southwest Conference, I said, the Big Eight, the Pac-10, and yes, the Big East. All those teams used to play each other in the Big East. They weren't the Big East, they were just independents. You put them together. And what's the great thing that Franklin's pointing out about smaller conferences is that everyone plays everyone. Oh, Yakov, I got to say, Mike and Mike, that was an exceptional show. exceptional. That is the best sports talk show. Ooh, that's a bold statement. Maybe it's not the best. It's one of the best. And the best one I know of in the morning. There was a dude that called himself the Professor. Yakov, do you remember Jeff Sindelar in Cleveland? WKNR and a few other stops. Jeff Sindelar. Jeff Sindelar was about the best, most knowledgeable guy I've ever heard. So I loved him as a local guy in Cleveland. Pete Franklin was exceptional from a national standpoint. Got to say, the last radio show, sports radio I listened to was when I moved to Connecticut. This would have been in 2001. I gravitated to New York sports radio. I didn't make it a intentional thought to do this. I just simply flipping through, gravitated to, the Fan, New York sports radio. Okay, I'm going to listen to this. Knew nothing about it, I don't think. And Mike and the Mad Dog. So Mike Francesa, I knew him from CBS Sports in the 80s. And then Mad Dog, Chris Russo, who I believe is still on ESPN. Those guys had a show, and that show was great. That show was great for a lot of reasons, because those guys didn't like each other at first. Then they grew to like each other and have a friendship. But they had such contrasting styles. That's what made it great. Much like what you're pointing out, Yakov, with Mike and the Mad Dog. Contrasting styles. That's what makes fights. That's what makes a show. Contrasting styles. If I had a co-host, I'd have somebody with a contrasting style. I wouldn't have somebody just like me. When we bring on people to host the various shows and produce content here at the Voice of College Football, I tell all of them, because many of them approach me and they think that they have to fit in some kind of box and do it like me. And I say, no. Just do your own thing. Be your own person. Don't try to do it like me. We're not going to confine you to a box. Now, we do have some guidelines, of course, that make sense. Mike and the Mad Dog. So Greenberg, of course, is the intellectual. He's the non-player. He's the journalist. And then you've got Golick, who's the former player, of course. So it created great coming at these issues from different angles and having the gruff athlete and then the polished broadcaster journalist. Yes, it's a great show. It's a great show, and it's unfortunate that it fell apart. And from all indications of what's been said out in social media and been reported, that it seems pretty confirmed that it wasn't the best of an ending. It's not like they decided to shake hands and say, this has been a great run. This is the time to call it quits. No, Greenberg moved on to other things at ESPN, kind of left Golick high and dry. And there's nothing wrong with making a career decision, but it appears as though he didn't give him the respect to communicate what was going on at a proper time. I must be way back in the chat. Let's see. It's 20 minutes ago that Jim said, "In the range," when I said Bruce Hornsby. Yes, in the range. Hornsby played the piano for the Grateful Dead. I did not know that. JR, David Pollock. Yes. McAfee, I've not heard enough from him to know. I must be the only guy on the planet that doesn't watch Pat McAfee. Not that I've got anything against him. I don't. I just have other things I'd rather see. Oh, yes. You're right on this one, Uncle Rico. Good to see you, Ferris. Good morning. Jim likes to see the old crazy guy Lee Corso. I'm going to hold back from calling him that just because there's been a lot of physical issues that have caused him to be act in such a way. That's a delicate situation. However, Lee Corso should have been taken off College Game Day. A lot of people will tell you 3 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, not like 20 years ago. Like, he has not been capable of being. There are legends in industries that earn some level of extension of their careers if that decision is made. If Cal Ripken wants to hit 175 for one season with the Orioles, okay, but still, we're running a business. We're trying to win games. At some point, you have to say, you know what, you can't play anymore. We'll give you all the parades in the world and give you gold watches and do all those things. But you can't perform the job anymore. Lee Corso, we all understand, was never, despite being a head coach at Indiana, of course. That's where I know him from, Indiana, but he was also at Louisville. He's a Florida State grad. Despite being a football coach, he never, except for if you went back to the very, very early days of College Game Day, and I'm going to throw this out as a trivia question, who would have been the host with Lee Corso in the very early days of College Game Day? Anybody? Love to see if anybody gets this right. Early days, College Game Day. Maybe they didn't even call it College Game Day, but it was their College Game Day show before all the other games. Anybody? Lee Corso at the desk with, he's still on the air now. He's still prominently on the air now. Still has a booming voice, still does marquee games, maybe on the second tier. All we got out of that was Moses. Nobody's got a guess for me. Thought somebody would have a guess. Thought maybe some of the old timers would have a guess. Brad Nessler, no. That's a good guess, though. Nessler was an ESPN guy early in his career. Brent Musburger, no. I'll start giving Beano Cook, no. This was a broadcaster. This was a anchor sort, an anchor type, who was Howard Cosell. Thank you. Look at this. Joey comes in with, there it is, Tim Brando. Tim Brando, the original College Game Day host. Thank you, Lopez as well. Tim Brando. Yes, Brando and Corso. And at that point, Corso had to be the analyst. He had to be a bit of a straight man. He still had his flair, his personality, but he had to actually analyze football. And then they brought in better analysts, let's face it, Herb Street, and then others. Initially, it was just Herb Street, and then Chris Fowler, of course, hosting. And then Herb Street was the X's and O's guy, and Corso was kind of the knucklehead. But that should have ended like 20 years ago. But I don't run the show. Thought we had some other interesting questions back in the chat. Yeah, this came in from Jim. That's where we took off on Lee Corso. Ferris is still counting days. Okay. I personally have never done that. I don't understand, except for, of course, you're trying to troll, trying to push buttons of Ohio State fans. And certainly that's factual. I guess it is factual. I've not counted myself. But I think we all understand that have functioning brains that can't stop until it's not like they play every day. So they don't play every day. It's not a baseball. It's not like a baseball team beat another baseball team 1,600 consecutive times. Michigan's won 3 straight games. Hail to the victors. 3 straight. It's an exceptional accomplishment. It's an exceptional accomplishment. 3 straight. I'm going to leave it at that. Uncle Rico knows me. Joey says, Mark, we need to reach out to Tom Luganville again. Yes. That was arguably the best conversation we've ever had here, regardless of how many people watched it or didn't watch it. People watch videos based on thumbnails and titles, and I'm bad at both. So I appreciate everyone that watches our videos, because you just watch it because you believe we're going to put out a good video, because it certainly is not attracted by the title or the thumbnail. So we need to do a better job at those things. But Luganville, yeah, that was a great conversation. And it was funny because he only had 10 or 15 minutes for me, and we talked for 55 minutes. So I think he enjoyed it. He said he did. And yes, I need to do that. The Truth is asking, Mark, what can we do to get you to move back to the great state of Ohio? Well, that's nice of you. I don't know what your motivation is, The Truth. And what a handle there, The Truth. That is a great handle. I love that, The Truth. Lord knows we need much more of it in this world, in this society, The Truth. So the only thing I would ask is, how is this impacting your life? The Truth, not that I would be against it, but it's not like we were going out to lunch once a week or anything. So to get me to move back to the great state of Ohio. So we've got a number of things that would have to happen. So if I was in the great state of Ohio right now, my daughter most likely would not be visiting me in less than 2 weeks. So my daughter's coming to visit me. She's in Connecticut. So that was the most difficult thing in leaving Connecticut, was leaving my kids, but they are grown up and fine and working and have careers, and they're both doing great. They don't need me. So that would not have happened at another point. But so then I went to Ohio for the first time since 1994. That's the last time I had lived in Ohio, was 1994. But I seriously considered staying in Ohio. It's not like I didn't like it. In the winters, the 2 that I experienced were not bad. They were cold, but of course it's cold. There wasn't much snow. I tell people, everybody I've talked to in Florida, of course, is like, oh, I'm sure you love being here. You're not going to miss all that snow. Like, well, there wasn't much snow. We had a lot of snow around Christmas time, and maybe one other blast of snow, but otherwise there was no snow on the ground. All of winter, the last 2 winters. Before that, I don't remember. Now, I also realize that, and my son pointed this out to me, that once I left ESPN and no longer had to go out into the snow when I was working from home, and it was a choice, unless I just had to have something from the store, that I really didn't have to leave the house when I didn't want to, that I made a couple comments in front of my son my last few years in Connecticut. So I would have endured about about 3 winters in Connecticut after I left ESPN, which of course it's horrible when you got to get up and go to work, or in my case, it was more about going to work later in the day. And then if there was a snowstorm, walking out to your car at 4 o'clock in the morning when you just want to get home, and you got to clean off a car and it's freezing and you got to sit in the car and drive home. And yeah. But I made comments, and my son stopped me at one point when I was saying, oh yeah, these last few winters weren't bad. He's like, Dad, you're sitting at home. You don't know. You're forgetting what the winters are like because you're sitting at home. You're not going out in the weather. You're working for yourself. So you have forgotten what the winters are like. I got to get up every morning and go to work at 7 o'clock in the morning and drive through this. And he worked out in the cold, partially training dogs. But that's a very nice statement, I guess, out of you, the truth. I wouldn't be opposed to moving back there, but I don't think my kids would be visiting me. My kids are considering, not seriously, but they have it in their minds to live here, to move here. So that would lock it down right there. Boom, I'm not budging. And I just bought a place. I've only made one payment. I got $359 to go. But places can be sold. We'll see. If I don't like it down here, that's probably where I would, probably where I'd move. Game day. D-Rock's doing some research here on Wikipedia. Originally broadcasted in 1987 in Connecticut. First took to the road in South Bend in 93 for the 1-2 matchup. Florida State, Notre Dame, Irish won. Should claim a national championship. Yakov, what are your earliest college football memories? Any memories of the 1977 Pitt Panthers? Are you mistaking? Is that a word? Mistaking the 76 Pitt Panthers that won the national championship for the 77 Pitt Panthers? Possibly, Yakov. I don't remember either one of those teams. The first quarterback I remember at Pitt was Rick Tricano and Jackie Sherrill coaching. And the first college football season that I really remember playing out was 1978. 77, I do remember the Ohio State-Michigan game of 77, and I remember the Buckeye Sugar Bowl game against Alabama. And 77, I don't remember anything else about. I could recite to you who won all the major bowl games and the scores and what happened just because that's what I do, but I didn't experience it. So 78 is pretty much my first year of college football. 79 was when I was a fanatic. So no, I don't have any of the 77 Pitt Panthers. South FL Noel, good to see you. Thanks for being here. Aaron's here. Wet Blankets here. Talking up the pokes. Send the Big 8 answer. I agree with that. Thank you. It's good to be agreed with. Send the Big 8 answer. Southwest Conference back. Yes, that would be phenomenal. Again, Joey's got a video with the 5 toughest schedules in the Big 12. It's on the West Virginia channel. This is a good call by Joey right here as well. I remember this. Penn State being denied entrance into the Big East. Penn State and West Virginia were independent. Penn State tried to join the Big East with everyone. They were denied. Imagine that. That would never happen now. I was not aware of this. Apparently, ESPN has fired Robert Griffin III for Travis Kelce. So, first of all, I didn't know that Travis Kelce. Oh, I'm getting them mixed up. Yeah, Travis Kelce, the tight end, not his brother, who did retire. So, did Travis Kelce retire as well? Is a complete joke. RG3 is pretty good. Yeah, I think RG3 is great. He's a natural. He's a natural. Yakov, I believe you were confusing a few people here. I believe you are. And if you're not, then they both said the same thing. So Bruce Drennan, similar cadence, similar gravelly throat. Bruce Drennan, who's still, I believe, broadcasting in Cleveland. Maybe he's just now hung it up. Yakov, you would probably know better than I, that Bruce Drennan used to sign off. He did the Indians games on Channel 43, first with Joe Tate, and then I think they kept him around. Channel 43 started doing the Indians games in 80. They were definitely doing them in 81. 79 or 80, and they had Joe Tate, and they rolled out, I guess it was Bruce Drennan first, or was it Reggie Rucker did a season? That was interesting. And then it was Bruce Drennan. And then Bruce Drennan took over. Joe Tate went back to the play-by-play, or I think he actually left baseball, concentrated on the NBA. But Drennan used to always say at the end of the Indians broadcast, and then he took it to his radio show where he would say at the end of the show something to the effect of, and always remember, I love you, Cleveland. But that was Bruce Drennan. I don't think Jeff Sindelar said the same thing. Unfortunately, our internet capacity, the lives of the internet only goes back so far. It's like history almost stopped in a way. So, for example, my broadcasting career has no internet. Like, I remember one time looking myself up in terms of attachment to my broadcasting career and those jobs. But since I left all that in 2000, I could find a couple articles with my references of me concerning SEC football. But if it was today, it'd be all over the place. So Jeff Sindelar, unfortunately, it's probably almost impossible to find anything on the internet about Jeff Sindelar. And I don't know how he wrapped up his show. So, might be wrong, Yakov, but if I am, they both said it. Ballard Sports Media. You can catch that right here on YouTube as well. Ballard Sports Media. We love Ballard. Ballard's an amazing guy. Oh, boy. Ferris. This is, I believe, Ferris just trying to get a response. We'll just leave that there for a second. Even Michigan fans. I usually don't tie commentators or analysts' competency to their predictions. Some people are just good at predictions. Some people are just not good at predictions, but they can still be football experts. You can have some of the best minds in football, and they just don't predict games that well. It's fine. Everybody's making predictions. Everybody wants predictions, so everybody makes predictions. So I would like to see on College Game Day, I don't believe they do this. They never did this before. They're all making predictions, and we have no idea what their records are. We have no clue of what their records are, do we? No, they don't keep track of them. But Desmond Howard one year predicted, I believe this was the year after, it was in 21 or 22. He predicted Baylor, Texas A&M, Pitt, and some other oddball to play in the college football playoff. I'll just leave that there. Go Buck says ratings and money run all the shows. I used to believe that at one point. That was the truth at one point. And it should. Why should it not? It's a business. The ratings mean people are watching. Therefore, you cater to what people are watching. So I am all in favor of that as a capitalist. What else should be driving the shows? You produce and you build content around what people want to see. I don't think that that's the case anymore. I think that's still 80% of the case, but there's a window there where the networks, ESPN in particular, since we're talking about them, but all networks have an agenda. They have a social and political agenda that flies in the face of sound business. Ballard, what are some things that need regulation and need to be limited in college football, Mark? I saw an article about a 34-year-old kicker. I got an idea for a show this afternoon. Your thoughts? What are things that need to be regulated and limited? Well, that's an easy answer. It's not an easy solution, but it's an easy answer. The transfer portal, NIL, and the structure of the leagues would be third. If this all was under a commissioner and this was all organized and all the conferences were connected, then there wouldn't be programs that would be in fear of their lives and being kicked out. It would be like the networks, the TV networks would not be running college football. And they're, of course, not running it on a day-to-day basis, but they are driving the agreements to let these conferences know, okay, they're not worth it. Don't consider them. They're worth it. They should be the next choice. I don't want television networks telling us that Wake Forest is not going to be a part of major college football anymore. I want to be able to watch Wake Forest and Boston College play an ACC game 10 years from now and know that it's played as a major college football game. Maybe I'm in the minority. Maybe most people don't care. I do. That's what I would like. So NIL, transfer portal, and the structure of college football needs to be regulated. Well, Aaron, hopefully I'm on that list. If I am, thank you. Yes, Chrissy Hind, I just heard The Pretenders last night. Great song. Back on the Chain Gang. Just heard that in the car yesterday. Yes, this is impressive. That Michigan started playing football before everyone else and has been the winningest college football program. They have the most wins. I will say, this is something that I thought of the other day. It hit me for a first time, and I think it's going to, for honest people, it's going to stop them completely in their tracks, including myself. Because think of this. I will take this to any fan base out there that takes pride in being the best. We're the greatest, whether you're Alabama or Michigan or Ohio State or Notre Dame. Now, if you're an Oklahoma State fan, God bless you, wet blanket. You obviously are not in this kind of discussion. I don't know who you take this up against. Maybe if you take this up against Kansas State or somebody, well, you've had a much better football history than Kansas State. So I don't know who you take this up against. You've not had the history of Oklahoma, of course. So Oklahoma State, whoever you can compare yourself to, just listen to this for a second. I know nobody wants to think about this. Nobody wants to contemplate this. But let's take Pitt in West Virginia. Let's take Ohio State in Michigan. Suddenly, your team, your program, Michigan fan, let's start with you, Michigan fan, you now have all of Ohio State's history. Let's say if we could magically close our eyes, snap our fingers, and everything that's happened has been in complete reverse. Michigan has done everything Ohio State's done. Ohio State's done everything Michigan's done. Do you know what would happen to your argument? Suddenly, everything that Ohio State's accomplished, that would be what you would argue to be the most important. All of that would be the most important. You would be saying, oh, well, we've got the best winning percentage of all time. We've won more bowl games. We've won more major bowl games. We've won more conference titles since we joined the league. We have the best winning percentage since 1970. We have the best winning percentage in the 21st century. We've been the best recently. We have the most NFL players. We have the most NFL draft picks. We have the most first-round picks. We have more Heisman Trophy winners. You would be saying all those things about your school and your team. And Ohio State fans, same with you. Pitt fans, same with you about West Virginia. West Virginia fans, same about. Just give that a thought. I know you don't want to think about that. You don't want to admit to that, but you would. You would be just as adamant about your school being better with the exact opposite resume. Am I wrong? Am I wrong, anyone? Aaron says Ohio State fans think that college football started in the 50s. Actually, I think Ohio State started to win this series even earlier than that because I was going year by year and I was going back decade by decade. And I wish I had those numbers in front of me. But if you start with this decade, it's, of course, Michigan 3-0. But if you go back the previous decade, Ohio State takes it, and they have the best record since 2010, 2000, 1990, 1980, 1970, 1960, 1950, 1940, 1930. I believe you have to go back to 1920 to find that Michigan leads the series since that point. But you're right. And there's nothing wrong with thinking that. Well, it's obviously not true. College football started before that. But in terms of having, taking pride in whatever, if you want to be, there's really no good example of this because the same teams win all the time. But let's say you want to be a Liberty fan and you just want to say, I only care about what's going on right now, right this second. I don't care anything about history. And my team just went 13-1. That's all I care about. That's your choice. That's fine. But let's just all understand that we manipulate these facts and these statistics to fit our narrative. And if an Ohio State fan or any fan I hear this all the time. Some fans want to say, you know what? I only care since I've been watching. So for some people, that was 10 years ago. I only care. I don't care what people in leather helmets did. And for our younger folks here, shoot, they don't care what happened pre-internet or pre-social media. That's their frame of reference. There's nothing wrong with that. That doesn't mean we erase history. That's not what I'm saying. And sometimes I get charged with that. Oh, Mark, you're saying that those games don't count. No, I've never said that. I've never stated that. They count. I'm doing an all-time program ranking series. I'm including every single game in history. So they count. And the Big Ten ranking should be coming out today. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it's personal preference, meaning are the games weighted? No, not technically. They are not weighted. The win in 1901 is just as valid as the win in 2023 in terms of just counting a win and a loss. But you cannot tell me that games that were played last season are not more important than a game in 1901 played against Polytech Institute or some high school club team, because those are some of the games that count as college football victories. I believe Michigan's first national championship was in 1901. So if these games and these teams are so incredibly important, I would think that you would know your team. So, and I'm speaking to every college football fan base, but I guess we're talking to Michigan right now. So since the 1901 team and its national championship is just as valid as last year's national championship, then do you know all those players? Somebody name the 1901 Michigan football team. Does anybody know who played for the 1901 Michigan? And I'm not talking about one dude, the coach, Fielding Yost. Yes, it's a legendary name. Who played for the 1901 Michigan Wolverines? All right, let's see their schedule here in 1901. All right. This national championship is just as valid as any national championship. Cough, cough, cough. It's not. They played Albion. I don't even know where that's located. Most of you don't either. Case, I guess that's Case Reserve, Western Reserve in Cleveland. They beat Case. Okay, they beat a couple Big Ten teams. They beat Buffalo. I guess that's the same Buffalo that now exists in the MAC. 128-0. They beat Carlisle. Guess this would this be with, I can't imagine that they beat the Carlisle team with Jim Thorpe. We should look them up. Is this Carlisle with Jim Thorpe? This would be after Jim Thorpe. Pop Warner. He was a pretty good coach. We've got no other information. I would think that Jim Thorpe would be listed if Jim Thorpe played on this team. So anyway, we're not going to delve that deep. They played Ohio State, beat the Buckeyes 21-0 in front of 4,000 folks. Chicago, Beloit, Iowa, and Stanford in the first Rose Bowl, 49-0. So yeah, this Michigan, if all the games count the same and all the championships and all the years, well, I don't want to hear anything more about this last year's Michigan defense because they don't compare to these guys. These guys shut out everyone. So this is the greatest defense of all time. Albion, Case, Buffalo, Carlisle, Beloit. All right, we're counting that one just like national championships played now. Okay. Now the defense got substantially worse the next year because they gave up 12 points. So they must have had a big rivalry with Albion because they played them in the opener the next year in front of 2,000 people. They played Case again. They played Michigan Agriculture. Okay, that was a hell of a game. 119-0. Indiana, Notre Dame, Ohio State. Of course, they blasted the Buckeyes 86-0. And then they finished out with Oberlin and Minnesota. And that team went 11-0. So you can take pride in whatever you want to take pride in. I don't make that determination. You make that determination. And those count. Those games count. I don't know if the championships really count. I don't know. I think, and unfortunately we can't mark a date to say these championships should, because we can even go into the 1970s and 80s and I can point out championships that don't make sense. And no, Cliff, we're not going to look at 1902 and 1903. We did look at 02, didn't we? Yes. But you can't tell me that, to me, again, you can make whatever decision you want, but to me, let's put it this way. The Ohio State-Michigan series is 61-52. And yes, it is 52. Ohio State did win a game. We can watch it right here on YouTube in 2010. 61-52. You can't tell me that it doesn't change the perception and the reality even of the series. Let's say Michigan won the first 61 in a row and Ohio State won the last 52 in a row. I would feel much differently about that series than if Ohio State won the first 52 in a row and Michigan won the last 61 in a row. So the course of the series does matter. So this constant, oh, well, this is the series record and that's all that matters. No, that's not all that matters. To you, again, you can make your decision, but to me, that's not all that matters, because I'd rather be down 61-52 in the manner in which Ohio State's down 61-52 than be leading 61-52 in the manner that Michigan's up 61-52. I would rather have the series lead since 1920 because I just think the games are more valid. I watched those games. I don't care about games I couldn't watch, didn't see, don't know the players. I don't much care. I don't care. And it's a progressive. I care more. Paul Brown. Did I ever watch Paul Brown coach? No. But I've been alive when he's been alive. And I've been alive when he's been a coach in the NFL and a general manager and a president of an NFL team, and he's been a modern figure in college football. So he won a national championship in the 1940s. Should I care about that? Well, again, I'm not here to tell you to care or not care about it. You do your own thing. But just be honest about it. Go decade by decade through the rivalry. We've done that, and we'll continue to do that. Yeah, Ralph, this is the most asinine, idiotic thing in the history of football right here, and it's not 2011, it's 2010. The game does count. They played. Ohio State had illegal players. That's the most ridiculous. Now, Reggie Bush just received a Heisman back. This should be corrected soon. These Ohio State players, why were they illegal? Illegal. It's not illegal. They weren't illegal. The NCAA doesn't have a a law. They have guidelines. They have rules. They were ineligible. They weren't illegal players. No, they didn't cross the border. So, yes, these players, were they given gifts to stay eligible or induced to come to the university to play? Did they have their grades changed or tests taken for them so they could stay eligible? No, none of that. They simply took trophies that they already won. They had already won the trophies for this particular game that they have been stolen. So the game was already won and they were abiding by the rules. And then after the fact, they traded some trinkets, some awards. I don't think that they should have done it myself. I think that should be, I think when a college athlete is awarded something, that they should at least, there should be an agreement that it is yours through the end of your eligibility to keep, and you must keep it. Then you can do whatever you want with it. So I also believe that that they should have kept these awards, but they chose not to. And so this doesn't invalidate the game or the season for Ohio State. Ohio State has been ripped off 12 wins and a Big Ten championship and a win over Michigan. So I count it. To hell with these stupid records. And you have seen this over and over with the Voice of College Football. And it doesn't just involve Ohio State. It involves all sorts of teams. That I am going to right the wrongs of college football. That's all there is to it. So if there are valid results out there that are not counted by the NCAA, then screw them. I don't care. So again, this is not an Ohio State thing. This I have done all over the place when I have reviewed history. So it is 61-52 in the only place that counts for me, and that's here at the Voice of College Football. Now, Jim, that's great that you got your bowling trophy. Joey says, Mark, I'm not taking up for Pitt, so don't misread this, but yesterday talking about the ACC and comparing championships, you didn't have Pitt in there, and really at one point they were blue blood. I don't know what you mean. They won 9 national championships. Maybe I forgot to build a graphic, but it's on my chart. It's on my spreadsheet. So it's there. Yes, so Ohio State broke the rules in 2011. Michigan broke the rules in 2021, 22, 23. There should be a judgment as to so there's breaking a rule and there's breaking a rule. There's going into a convenience store and taking a piece of bubble gum that costs 35 cents. And there's robbing a bank. Technically, it's the same thing, right? But there is something called a judgment of the severity of that. So by your standard, Cliff, Michigan broke rules as well. So we should wipe out all of their wins in 2021, 22, 23, regardless of what comes back, because we already know that they cheated. So Michigan's going to have 3 years wiped out based on your standard. That's what you're saying. All right. Thank you, Joey. Joey is gifted a Voice of College Football membership. Thank you for that, Joey. Appreciate you being here. We did not get to the headlines, but I got to say that I think that most of the headlines we have covered. You know what? I'm going to cover these headlines elsewhere. So we'll get to them here. Here are the headlines. So the headlines are, first and foremost, that so this is basically that The UC Board of Regents has declared that UCLA will pay Cal Berkeley $10 million per year for 3 years. The Cal president had requested 6 years. And if you want to know more about that situation, watch our recording with Tony Siracusa from Last Word on College Football that was posted on Tuesday. But that's been determined. So that's a done deal. And UCLA will part with $30 million over the next 3 years to be paid to Cal for basically not informing the Board of Regents that it was leaving the Pac-12, and number 2, for damages that this caused that led to the demise of the Pac-12. UCLA leaving did not factor into the demise of the Pac-12. Technically it did, but that obviously was not the straw that broke the camel's back, but they still have to pay for it. All right, so then we do have Oregon State and Washington to play home games on the CW and Fox in 2024. I read this article. It's very misleading. The title is, at least, Oregon State and Washington State are going to play 11 of 13 games or 10 of 12 games on the CW. They're possibly going to play a game on Fox, and it's probably going to be on FS1 if you look at the matchup. So, current Pac-12 or Pac-2 Commissioner Teresa Gold is thrilled to announce this partnership with the CW and Fox. But basically, the schools have 13 home games between them, with 11 slated to broadcast on the CW and the other 2 on either Fox or FS1. The Oregon State game has a chance to be on Fox. The Texas Tech Washington State game, that's not going to be on Fox. I can tell you that right now. It's going to be on FS1. And if it is scheduled on Fox, I will eat my words. Maybe if I looked out over the entire schedule, I could figure out that Fox needed a game for a particular time spot. But I can almost guarantee you FS1 is going to be the destination of maybe both of those games. Certainly the second game. Yeah. So this is actually a good thing for FS1. This is a big deal for them, or FS1, CW, but not for those 2 schools because they've been playing on bigger stages. All right. What happened here? So Michigan had to release one of its greatest players of all time here, unfortunately. So Denard Robinson was driving drunk and he was fired. He was suspended, no longer employed. Can't we just say things the way they are? He was fired, no longer employed. He was fired. Had been Michigan's assistant director of player personnel. Again, arrested after operating while intoxicated. So he made a stupid mistake. He paid for it. I have no bent one way or the other in this. I think it's up to the organization to say, either, hey, you're a great employee. This is not like you. We're going to keep you, work with you. Or, no, this can't happen. We can't have public embarrassment. You're gone. So that's up to Michigan. But they let go one of their greatest players. And I don't know how Denard Robinson feels about this, whether he believes he made a huge mistake and he should pay the consequences or not. His arrest marked the second drunken driving incident involving a Michigan football staff member this year. Defensive line coach Greg Scruggs, who was just hired March 16th, and then he resigned. Again, he was fired 5 days later. Now, if I wanted to act like certain people, then I would make a big deal about this and say that Michigan's program's coming off the rails and all of that. But I think this is a case of two bad decisions by two separate people. I don't think it has anything to do with Michigan's football culture. I don't believe. All right. Yeah, Moose, we had to be on the Michigan cheating thing again because it was brought up because Ohio State was penalized for something radically different that didn't involve cheating and is costing them a win in the series and 12 wins overall, which, if added, they have the best record of all time. Michigan did cheat. Let's be very clear about this. Michigan cheated. Now, does that mean the entire team cheated? Harbaugh cheated? The coaching staff cheated? No, we don't know that. That's why there's an NCAA investigation. We do know that a member of the coaching staff cheated. And there have already been, there was some penalties that were connected to that. No, those are the penalties from the previous situation. We're still waiting on this. So we'll wait. Moose, I could bring it up every day if I wanted to. I can run the channel any way I want, talk about whatever I want. So I have decided that we're basically not going to talk about it until the violations are vetted out and the penalties, if there are any, are announced. And I'm pretty much going to take the NCAA's word for whatever they come out with. I'm not going to be one of these people that think they know more than what the sources say, unless there's some huge reason to believe. And we know in our society and our government, there is a lot of misinformation out there and crooked reporting. So we do know that in that realm. So if I have any reason to believe that it's not a just ruling, then I'm going to state that. But I don't see that happening. So whatever the ruling is, I may not believe in the penalty. I may not support the penalty, but whatever's discovered, I am fully backing whatever's discovered is discovered. But what we know right now is that a member of the staff cheated, and then a second member of the staff had knowledge of the cheating and coerced players, instructed them to lie to the NCAA. And we could, of course, explain it much more thoroughly than that, but those are the two basic points. What we don't know is Harbaugh's knowledge of and involvement, and other coaching members' knowledge of and involvement. That's what I want to know. And if Harbaugh knew nothing about it, and the other coaches knew nothing about it, then all is well and good, except for there should be some penalty because there was cheating, and the classic institutional control because Harbaugh didn't know what his staff was up to. So there is an issue there. That's not good. But if it's more than that, then it becomes a huge story again. If we know offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, all the way up to Harbaugh, either this stuff was going on and Harbaugh found out about it and was like, okay, well, we're going to ignore it. You guys keep doing it, or we'll stop doing it, or whatever, and didn't self-report, then that's a big deal. Now, if Harbaugh orchestrated it, then that's an even bigger deal. We don't know any of these things. And I'm not going to stand here and say, even though I tend to believe that Harbaugh knew nothing about it, I don't know the man. So I'm not going to vouch for anybody I don't know. All right. Megan, good to see you from down under. Thank you for being here. I often go back to your generous gift to buy me breakfast, because that was one of the portions of our fine show in the morning. What's up for breakfast, Mark? and we will get to that right now. And if you would like to purchase a breakfast for me because there's something you would like for me to try, your favorite breakfast dish, whatever it is, I will go directly to the store. I will purchase those items. It could be as simple as a donut, a bagel, or something that requires all sorts of cooking. I will cook if you want me to cook. I will be here to cook. I will get out all the mixing bowls. I will open every cupboard I have, and we will mix up a entree that will look like something. I don't want to predict how good it will be. I don't feel like eating bacon and eggs, but that might be my only option today. Bacon and eggs. Because I don't believe I have enough cereal. That's unfortunate because cereal sounds better than bacon and eggs right now. I'm kind of sick of bacon and eggs. We've got the Ohio State show at 11 o'clock, so I don't know if I got time. I could run out and get something, but I don't do that. Hardly ever. But we do appreciate y'all being here at the Voice of College Football. I'm sure I lit a fire under some people here. They're upset about Michigan cheating now. And when I say Michigan cheated, they didn't necessarily cheat. But when one of your staff members cheated, who was the Michigan player that this was a clown? This was a total clown move that took the shoe off of, I think, J.K. Dobbins. It was a Michigan linebacker. Even Dace went on and on about how absurd and stupid this was and just clownish. And both sides have done clownish things, and every college team has had embarrassing moments. So let's make that straight right now. Every college football program and college football team has done stupid, clownish things and made bad decisions. Everyone. But there was Michigan fans could probably help me out here. Is that, yeah, again, I would rely on our Michigan fans to fill in the blanks if they, and I'm sure they do recall, because it was out there pretty prominently about the, this was in maybe the 2019 game, I think. One of the Michigan players, yeah, help me out, crowd. I'll look it up here. And so my point was going to be, yeah, there we go. Whoever it was. I don't see what player. It was a particular player. This was even in the New York Post. And it's more about J.K. Dobbins. Why don't they talk about the player, Carlo Kemp? That's it. So yes, this is my example here. And every college football team, every sports team has examples of stupid things that were done. And so this is the point I'm making about Connor Stallions. So Carlo Kemp acts like a moron, is a clown, and doesn't. I'm not saying he's a clown. Maybe he's an upstanding person. But in this one moment, he did a stupid thing, and he untied J.K. Dobbins' shoe. And it's just a clownish thing to do. He's frustrated, and that's what he did. Okay. So on one hand, you could say Michigan did this. He's representing his team, his university. You could say Michigan did this. But Carlo Kemp was the one that acted on this. Nobody else had anything to do with it. It was simply him, but he is representing the school. Corey's jumping in here now. And Corey, you have missed a great thing because we had to delve back into Michigan's cheating here. Because it got connected to Ohio State in 2010 being discarded of a win that they have against Michigan. And I count it. Of course, Michigan fans don't count it. The NCAA doesn't count it. So it's officially not a win. But the reason that win was taken away is just beyond absurdity. That it had nothing to do with cheating. So anyway, I think the whole wins being vacated, most people don't agree with that, don't like it. I don't like it because it affects innocent people when wins are vacated. When the NCAA takes away wins from a school, from a team, there's usually a ton of innocent people that now have 0-11 on their record instead of 11-1 or whatever. However, I do understand it. If you cheated and the cheating was directly to result in winning the games, if the cheating impacted the play on the field, whether that's to keep players eligible by changing test scores or giving them money to induce them to come to the school, whatever that is, or it's spying on another team, whatever it is, if that cheating is intended to impact what happened on the field, then there is no perfect solution. There is no perfect punishment or penalties. But to take away wins, I have no issue with that, if that's the case. However, did the Ohio State players break the rules of the NCAA? Yes, they did. So they were suspended for it. Let's understand that. So they were all suspended for half the season. So it ruined Ohio State's next season because we're talking about their 5 best players on offense. Their best wide receiver, their best running back, their quarterback, their best tackle. They all missed the first 6 games of the next season, and it caused Terrell Pryor to go to the NFL supplemental draft. So Ohio State received its penalty for breaking rules. However, those rules had absolutely nothing to do with the play on the field. The rules that were broken were connected to winning trophies for winning games and championships. You have already accomplished the wins on the field. You are then taking the trophies and doing something with them that is against the rules. So Ohio State was penalized for that by having players suspended for half a season. The wins should not be vacated because they had nothing to do with the actions. The NCAA is beyond pathetic and stupid when it comes to this. This is basic rationale. Basic rationale. And I will argue that with anyone because it's an easy argument to win. And I think we've already done that. So we appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. Next stop's Ohio State Live at 11 a.m. Eastern Time.